Good morning, this is TVP World News. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Poland has reached an agreement with the United States to purchase 400 air-to-air missiles in a $1.3 billion deal. The new AIM-120D3 missiles will be used by Poland and other NATO countries with the F-35 fighters. The purchase was announced by Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz on social media platform X. Compared to the previous generations currently in use by the Polish Air Force, the new AIM missiles feature better guidance systems and a significantly increased range. In addition to the missiles, Poland will receive test equipment, encryption devices, spare parts, technical documentations, as well as engineering and training support. Other countries that will receive the missiles include the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Australia. I think Putin wants peace. This is what US President Donald Trump said in an exclusive interview with ABC News' senior national correspondent Terry Moran.
I do believe that he's willing to stop the fighting. Don't forget,
you think he wants peace? You think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
I think he does, yes. I think he does. I think because
even with the raining missiles
I think he really, his dream was to take over the whole country. I think because of me, he's not going to do that.
There was no reason for Putin.
U.S. State Department said Tuesday evening the time is now for concrete proposals from Russia and Ukraine to end the Moscow's war. According to spokeswoman Tammy Bruce, the United States will step back from their role as mediators if they see no progress in achieving a peaceful solution to the war.
I do have something I can tell you that the Secretary said to me about the situation just a short time ago, Andrea Mitchell. We are now at a time where concrete proposals need to be delivered by the two parties on how to end this conflict. How we proceed from here is a decision that belongs now to the President. If there is not progress, we will step back as mediators in this process.
Russia launched yet another strike on Ukrainian overnight, targeting Kharkiv this time. At least 45 people were wounded, including children. The Russian drone attack struck multiple locations across Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. An apartment building, private houses, as well as medical facility was destroyed in the aftermath. Footage released by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine shows first responders on the scene putting out a fire and local residents being rescued from areas covered in rubble. The Russian attack also targeted Dnipro in Ukraine's southeast, triggering fires and killing one person. Both Kharkiv and Dnipro have been regular Russian targets since the start of the war. The U.S. administration is not keen on imposing more pressure on Moscow, as it sees ties between Kremlin and Beijing as already too deep, said our guest, geopolitics expert Velina Chakarova. She added, however, that the U.S. could impose further sanctions on Russia's energy and financial sectors.
I would not exclude the combined approach where the U.S. still can actually impose sanctions, for instance, on the energy or financial sector. And right now we know for a fact that the Russian economy is hurting because of the already imposed sanctions on behalf of the U.S. leadership, already starting with Biden administration, when it comes to LNG, when it comes to shadow fleets and so on. I don't see, honestly, a lot of niches for the U.S. administration to really impose a lot of pressure on Moscow right now, on the Kremlin. Why? Because the Kremlin is holding the Chinese cards. And basically, the fear on behalf of America is that this modus operandi between China and Russia is becoming far too deep.
Leaders from across Central Europe have gathered in Warsaw to mark 10 years of the Three Seas initiative. The summit, which was set up to address infrastructure and connectivity gaps across the whole region, has been plagued by challenges, as this is one of the key political projects of the outgoing Polish President Andrzej Duda. Questions now loom over its future. Our chief political correspondent, Aaron Dahmen, reports from the Polish capital.
A decade on since Poland and Croatia dreamed up the Three Seas Forum, this appears to be an inflection point. The idea on paper is simple: help Central Europe from the north to the south, from the Baltic to the Adriatic and Black Seas, to fill the gaps in modern infrastructure. Here's Polish President Andrzej Duda.
We talked about security issues in its various areas, emphasizing how the time during these 10 years has shown the foresight we had when we built this formula.
But the reality has been less rosy. Although a handful of energy and roading projects have been ticked off or are nearing completion, more than 100 remain on the priority list. On top of that, there's been a lack of investment from partners and an era of politicisation from the previous right-wing Law and Justice administration, with the helping hand of Viktor Orban's Hungary. When it comes to Ukraine, Hungary was again the odd one out on Tuesday, as it has been in Brussels, refusing to condemn Russia's invasion. So what does the future of the Three Seas initiative look like?
The Three Seas Investment Fund is not perfect, but I got to tell you, on a baseline measure, its returns on investment are somewhere in 15%. I would like to invest in that. Clearly, the fund needs to be reformed and changed so they can be more attractive to private capital.
President Duda has been a steward of this project, but this is his final farewell as he leaves office in the coming months. In 2017, US President Donald Trump, during his first term, was here in Warsaw as a special guest of the forum. Duda tried to get him back for round two, but instead the US sent its Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. Also in attendance, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky joined remotely as an associate country of the summit. Behind me, Warsaw's Royal Castle is a story of history and survival. How the Three Seas Summit writes its own history remains to be seen. In Warsaw for TVP World, I'm Aaron Dahmen.
Speaking at the Three Seas Initiative Summit in Warsaw, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia might be planning new military activity using Belarus as a springboard. He suggests that the Kremlin might use the two countries' joint military exercises this September as a pretext.
And look at Belarus. Russia is preparing something there this summer, using military drills as cover. And that's usually how they start a new attack. But where will it go? I don't know. Ukraine, Lithuania, Poland, God bless, no. But we all need to be ready.
In an exclusive interview for TVP World, the deputy editor-in-chief of Poland's Gazeta Wyborcza newspaper commented on the Three Seas Summit held in Warsaw on Tuesday. He said that while the idea behind the initiative was great in theory, it didn't work out until now due to political differences between the Baltic and Balkan countries being too large.
The idea was great in theory because in 2015, when Andrzej Duda was elected our president, some of his advisors, they combined the numbers of population and economy of countries of region, and they summed it up and find out that the numbers are better than numbers of France or numbers of Germany. And they wanted to create something like, regional empire under umbrella of Poland, but it didn't work out because the political differences between Baltic countries and the Balkan countries were too big. The obstacles were too high.
Russia has returned the body of late Ukrainian journalist Viktoria Roshchina. She was declared missing in August 2023 and killed while in Russian captivity in September 2024. The Russian Foreign Ministry informed Roshchina's families of her passing in October 2024. According to an investigation carried out by Vaznie Istorii, a Russian independent media outlet working with French NGO Forbidden Stories, several of Roshchina's organs were missing, including her eyes, brain, and part of her larynx. Investigators suspect the organs were removed to conceal evidence of abuse and torture. However, other injuries on her body showed clear signs of torture, including a broken hyoid bone and ribs, signs of internal bleeding, and possible electrocution marks on her feet. Provocations on the eastern border of the EU will not stop as long as Lukashenko is in power, said the exiled leader of the Belarusian opposition, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. Speaking with TVP World, Tikhanovskaya said that the case is more important now in the context of war in Ukraine than it had been years prior.
While Lukashenko is in power and supported by Putin, there will be constant provocations, against our democratic neighbors. It might be drills on the borders, it's migration attacks,
That's September.
Absolutely, deployment of nuclear weapon or such declarations about, whose land it is. So it just to provoke, to blackmail, and of course our democratic partners, Western countries, have to be always concerned about what's happening, and that is why it's so important now in the context of the war against Ukraine. It's very important to keep unity, to keep strength and consistency of the policy regarding dictators, because when they feel any hesitation, when they see that their narratives, their propaganda is poisoning minds of people, they can perceive it as weakness.
3 people were killed in a shooting in the Swedish city of Uppsala on Tuesday afternoon. Local police said they are investigating the shooting as a homicide, but had no information on if the incident was an act of terror or hate crime. According to the spokesperson for the Swedish police, a single person left the scene using an electric scooter. It is not clear, however, if the person was the perpetrator or a witness to the crime. Additionally, the Swedish police said the victims are yet to be identified and refused to speculate on the motive of the killings. Electric scooters have been used several times as a mode of escape following gang clashes in Sweden. Uppsala, about 40 minutes from Stockholm by car, has seen many gang-related shootings and stabbings in the past decade. However, they usually occurred outside the city center. And with that, we conclude this edition of World News. But please stay tuned to TVP World for more features to come.